Welcome back to Scrollies. Did you miss us? I don't think you did. There's plenty of episodes out there, and I know that McButch and Proud Mama Bear aren't listening to this one on a cross-country road trip. If they were, I would say, hey, keep it up. You're doing great. But maybe pull over, get some water. I am Team Rat NATO of the Scrolly Squad NATO, and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Squat Cobbler, and I have it on good authority that McButcher and Proud Mom Bear took and downloaded the entire Spotify playlist to their devices on the road trip to combat the spotty signal throughout the Midwest. But that's just what my sources tell me. I'm not an insider. I'm just repeating what I'm told. Anyway, yeah. It's good to be back, everyone. How's it going?
Hey, I'm just going to say this up top. Chunky Cat has advised us as our legal. We do not endorse listening to this nonstop for 24 hours. We think you should rest and take breaks in between. So, not advised, but hey, we love the enthusiasm. Mick Butch, Proud Mom Bear, thank you. Number one fans.
Prolonged exposure to Scrollies may be hazardous to your health. As a matter of fact, it is hazardous to your health.
Well, this week, as you guys have already seen, we have someone special here, our friend. We've met him not too long ago, 5-6 months ago, and I remember after 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, how has this guy not been here? Why does this guy feel like he's been here as long as I've known Squat, even though I've only known him for like 2 weeks?
Indeed, he had a way of just supplanting himself into the community as if he was a program always there from the start.
All right, yeah, you already know. You've seen him. You've watched him. You've maybe had him use the command to infest the circuits with raccoons. We're talking about UltraJohnic. Hello, UltraJohnic.
Ooh. Hey, everyone. I'm UltraJohnic from twitch.tv/UltraJohnic. And I am a advanced AI that they have programmed. And you are hearing me talk.
Yeah, we had to get some downloads to make sure that he was ready to go for the podcast. The streaming program runs perfectly, but podcast is a little bit different.
I think my prompts had a few typos in them. Hopefully that won't make things a little zany later on in this episode. But we'll see how it goes. Ultra, it's good to have you.
Don't worry, I will learn as I go.
Yeah, unfortunately, you guys can't tell this. Eggy is here. He's like tapping his mic and looking at us. He's replaced Audio C, but for whatever reason, I think Audio like broke it on the way out. So Eggy, chime in when you can, but we'll see what happens. UltraJohnic, man, I think I've said this about to every single guest so far of like, at the first week, we're going to ask these people. These are the people. We've been wanting to ask you for a while, and we're glad that you could make the time in your busy life as a robot.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for asking me to do this. It really means a lot. So, fun fact, Team Rat NATO was actually the first ever raid that I had on my channel. And I believe, was it Squat that sent you over to me?
So Ultra, I don't know if I've ever, I don't know if you've ever been privy to this information, but despite the fact that in no way are you a joke and have you been a joke in our community... The raid that we did to your channel was a joke, and let me explain that real quick for our fine listeners. So, at the time, I believe this was early in the year, January of 2022. I was finally following through on my end of the promise to Rat NATO, who had just finished my favorite game, DK64, to mixed results on his end, I think. I was going to begin playing his favorite game, Final Fantasy VI. However, due to a self-imposed rule that I would only play official versions of anything, I had the Super Nintendo version on my SNES Classic, which is, as we all know, localized as Final Fantasy III. So, I don't know exactly how this came about during that stream, but I think Rat said something like, Squat, we're always raiding channels playing your favorite games, imagine if I got to actually watch a streamer play one of my favorite games for once. I'm like, I'll get him. I'm gonna look up his favorite game, Final Fantasy III.
So you were one of those people who didn't know.
Yes, I didn't know, but I knew. So I was doing it as if I was unaware. I redeemed a Final Fantasy III raid on Ratnado's channel, and sure enough, he went along with it, and we showed up, and I think you were just about to end stream, and you were kind of confused, because I don't really think you knew what was going on, but...
Yeah, I had never been raided before, and you guys just show up, and you all say the same thing, and I'm like, oh god, are these bots? What's going on? Am I being swarmed by bots? And it's like... Yeah, there's no recording of it, but like I was just so uncomfortable sitting there going, "Hello."
The recording is implanted in all of our memory banks. Those of us that tuned into the Ultra stream, not number one, but early, one of your early streams, if I remember right. Because we'd asked you how long you had been streaming for, and it was not for very long at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ultra, you rolled with it fairly well, considering you were kind of the butt of a joke, even though I think that was intended to be directed at you. Yeah, we came because Final Fantasy VI was localized as Final Fantasy III in America, and I wanted to do a winking nudge nudge joke at Rat for his raid to his favorite quote unquote game.
There you go. That's the joke. I'm sorry, UltraJohnic, you had to find out, but you had to eventually. I do remember too, like the next day he came and like watched another stream, and then was like in Sheriff McLawdog's stream. I'm like, who is this guy? I thought he was just gonna be like the type of person we Squad always wants to raid people, and we go like, yo, what's up? Everybody follow, and then we never hear from them again, ever. Anything. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this guy playing Final Fantasy III is gonna be the same thing. And then look at us now. Hey,
look at us now.
Look at us now.
9 times out of 10, Ratnado, that may be the case. But hey, that's worst case scenario. 1 time out of 10, you'll get someone like Ultra or Code Synth or Shraxa who's there to stay for good.
That's true.
You never really know. It makes you wonder how many people we've missed.
The universe is an odd thing. It's controlled chaos.
It is true. Every time I feel bad because anytime I do stream, well, there was like a month or two when I had taken off the raid for like one special thing. You know, the raid redeem, and then Squad for like a month was like, where's the raid redeem? Where's the raid redeem? And I'm like, I'm gonna put it on. And then it just, I think it fell out of fashion.
He killed my favorite redeem. Now what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to redeem a D&D sketch of my character? Like, what the heck?
If Cat will ever finish.
Maybe I will now that Icy James is a reality. Maybe I will now, but I have so many Rataboys, I don't know what to do with at this point. But that's neither here nor there. I'll vent about that to Ratnado offline. Ultra. We're here. We're talking about a topic that's I think all of us listening can relate to. We have our experiences growing up, and then we revisit some of our favorite pastimes. And are they what we thought? I don't know.
The topic that UltraJohnic brought to us, it's gone through some transformations. We got to give a shout out to Taby Cat, who is a wonderful producer, brilliant mind. And we got to this topic, which is going to be talking about nostalgia, revisiting games, maybe something you've played before, come back, and now you're getting something different out of it. And who knows? Maybe we'll all just kind of like start off with a little bit of something of one of our nostalgic games. And let's start with you, UltraJohnic. This is your topic. What did you want to talk about?
So, one thing that I've been doing a lot recently is I've been taking a lot of my older consoles. I've taken my NES and my Super Nintendo, and I've been tearing them apart and cleaning them up and putting them back together. And in the process of that, I've actually been like looking on the internet at different used games and stuff and buying a lot more used games, which the prices are terrible, but they're better than they were a couple years ago. I've been doing that, and I've recently gotten into speedrunning on those older consoles. And so I've taken a lot of these old games and I'm playing them in a completely different way than how I used to when I was younger. And it's showing me different sides to these games that I've never seen before. Like, the first one I started with was Link to the Past. And I started figuring out all these little glitches and stuff, and not even knowing that they existed when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know you could walk through walls. I didn't know that you could run around the map at supersonic speeds.
Yeah. Yeah, no, how iconic that you bring up is that's poetic. that you brought up first Link to the Past in order to, you know, link to your past and then try something different.
There you go.
I legit have something with this. You know, shout out Proud Mama Bear. She kept me alive when I had COVID earlier this year. And first stream out of having COVID, I had seen a TikTok with somebody speedrunning Link to the Past. Specifically, like, how do you beat the game in 7 minutes? And so I thought that would be really funny return back. And it was like, all right, this speedrun, this one's dedicated to Proud Mama Bear. It took Squat Cobbler a month to beat A Link to the Past. And Squat Cobbler, I did it in honor of your mother for in 7 minutes. How does that make you feel?
You know, I remember that stream well. I was suckered in with promise of a Zelda stream, and instead he swapped to Final Fantasy VII Remake about 10 minutes into it. I was like, well, I'm here now. I guess I have to watch.
In typical Ratneado fashion.
You lure him in, and then you hit him with the Final Fantasy.
It's true.
However, you did actually finish that Zelda game, unlike Wind Waker, which I'm still waiting for the conclusion of almost 2 cute members later.
Cute Member 3! It's happening.
Fool me once. Okay.
I didn't say last year I'd finish it.
And you haven't said it this year either, so...
I just did Scrolly's exclusive Wind Waker complete for Cute Member 3.
Let's go. Wind Waker hype.
But yeah, no, it's true. You go back to a game and it's completely different, and now you have a lot more knowledge, and especially when you do something that totally changes the nature of it. You're not just like replaying it to hey, I remember this thing and it makes me, you know, remember a simpler time. Now it's like, well, I'm taking it and I'm breaking it a certain way. I don't know, Squad, you've kind of done that with Metroid, haven't you? Or a number of games.
Oh, Metroid. I didn't play at all when I was a kid. I got into Metroid within the last 6 or so years. But yes, no, a lot of games I have. I'm kind of in that middle of my revisiting my childhood nostalgia phase right now, as we all are, I think, in varying degrees. However, I tend to have one of 3 perspectives whenever I revisit something. Either it's oh man, this is pretty bad. I was a stupid kid. Or, oh wow, man, this holds up great. Man, I had great taste. Oh, I'm so glad this is actually aged well and I can still enjoy it, with a adult's mind. And then lastly, yeah, it's kind of a product of its time. It's quaint in some ways. It's not aged the best in others, but you can appreciate it for what it is and recognize, maybe it's best letting the memories live on as what they are compared to the reality of what it is. But hey, I think those are kind of the 3 camps that you're gonna fall into with a lot of stuff. Yeah, I definitely go through some examples, but I'll pass it back on over to you first.
I think for me, there are so many games that are getting remastered, things that I'm replaying and going back to try, and kind of like you said, of just like having a different perspective on it and being able to like understand now, like, oh, the gravity of this situation, and having a little bit more real life experience. There's a lot of things, and especially as a linguist and things like that, and somebody who likes storytelling, of being like, oh my gosh, I never understood what was going on here. I never understood the gravity of this situation. And especially with language, of just being like, man, they were really like speaking like adults to children. Like kids, as a kid, I kind of like skimmed past a lot of the subtext that was like really mature stuff. Like a lot of the games, I think, from when I was like a teenager, like I said, I've got Knights of the Old Republic that I'm replaying. Some of these games that came out when I was in like middle school and high school, and just like how people are reinterpreting them now, and the impact they have of just like, man, this is crazy that maybe a different generation. Squat, I think you're a little bit younger than us, but just like we separate a lot from people now. We don't want to get into like real stories, and older stuff, I think stuff I've revisited, I've just been like, wow, I miss so much of this subtext. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I think that you guys both bring up a really interesting point, and it's something that I wanted to touch on, actually, is like that secondhand nostalgia. Is like other people are super excited about something, and it's just something that you've always heard of. I've always heard of people being so into Star Wars, and Star Wars to me was always the original trilogy, and I didn't really get into it. I fell out of it after that.
Yeah.
But then I hear about all these people who like Knights of the Old Republic, and there's all these other things that I just wasn't around for. I just didn't touch on that. And it's so interesting going back to those types of games much, much later, and just seeing what they're like now. Because I'm very much of the mindset that I don't like saying, even if I think it, I don't like saying that it was good for its time, because that implies that it's bad now. And it's not bad now. I think that, like, for example, everyone says that about, like, Zelda Ocarina of Time. And it's like, oh, it was really good for its time. And it's like, no, it's still good now.
Yeah.
You can have both things. You can have Zelda Ocarina of Time. You can have modern Zelda. You can have everything. And you can touch base on it and see where it is, how it holds up today. And I think that games like that are still good today. You know?
Yeah.
I think so. I think one thing I wanted to say really quick about that is that definitely, like, I think for me, there's been like mechanical stuff like that. I love Ocarina of Time. I go back to it. I've played it twice on stream this year. Well, 1.5. I'm working on the other half for September. But just like going and seeing this stuff, and I've heard people say that kind of a thing of like, yeah, but it's old now and it's not very good. And I'm like, everything you love started here. You like Dark Souls, you like all these action games, you like Platinum games. Well, so much of it began right here. This, even though there's a little bit of old school jank in it, we don't have that anymore because this game figured it out. This game was like, well, this is the best we can do. Is there better? And then it changed in the future. And so for me, there is a chunk of that. And then the other chunk is games like even like Undertale, or like we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV, which now is a 9-year-old game that I played for like a week or 2 weeks back in 2014 or whatever it was. And or for example, Undertale, which Scorpion had me play, and I was 5 years, 6 years behind on that. And it was like you're saying, the nostalgia of like going through what everyone else did but later. There's still something in there for these like classics that everybody loves, even though I didn't experience that. And even in the case of like Undertale, of like where I had this memory of like bad NES games, like not bad, but like, poor looking NES games and SNES games that had all these limitations but still were able to like give this compelling interactive story.
I think that you bring up a really good point, Rad, about Undertale, because that is a game designed around nostalgia. So the creator of that game had nostalgia for several different games and just mashed them together.
Yeah.
And I think that it works best with those kind of games when you draw from all these different things and you're taking all this nostalgia and you're like just combining it all. Like there's bullet hells, there's old school RPGs, there's dating sims of all things in Undertale, and you're just kind of like mashing together everything, seeing how it works.
Yeah, I think the thing is, a lot of game designers now, they aren't really the pioneers that they were 20, 30 years ago. They were people that grew up playing those classic games, and in a lot of ways, I think they're trying to harken back to what they experienced growing up. So you get a lot of throwback titles with a lot of meta aspects to it, I think, in modern remakes, remasters, throwback titles like I mentioned. So because of that, I think just the very nature of what people are expecting these things to be, they kind of go in with this lens of what is being made now portraying what it was then, which is, I think that's a fair perspective to go in with, just because that's, the way they're introduced to it. But at the same time, I do think it's not necessarily saying something's a product of their time, meaning it's a bad thing, but I think holding something classic up to modern standards, it's unfair, just because, especially with games like, the hardware now allows for so much more possibility. The limitations that were in place at the time were being worked around in really creative ways in a lot of cases, but still there. And I think I bring a unique perspective in that I kind of had insular interests growing up. I didn't really branch out a lot from what I knew. And I think, a lot of people are like that. Most people kind of tend to stick to what they know. But a lot of these classics I've only really played in the last decade or so. Ocarina of Time was one of the last 3D Zeldas that I played. And, in a lot of ways, like you were saying, it did bring, that title. I'm not trying to single out Ocarina of Time, but hey, it's beloved, so I'll do it. Why not? There is a lot of jankiness in the game that you have to work around that wasn't the case in the sequels because they were just on better platforms. They were able to work out those kinks, and it wasn't so experimental because it was the first 3D game. But at the same time, the essence of what the game is and the very core of that experience. And I always say there's a few games that managed to make me feel like a kid again. The Ori games and Ocarina of Time. Every time I play it, I'm just transported back to when I was a kid, even though I never played them when I was a kid. So, I think, nostalgia definitely, it brings a certain lens that you have to look through, and it's just inevitable that you're going to be looking through. But for those people that are experiencing it for the first time, I think, the feelings and the aspects of the game that age well or age poorly are still very valid.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is really true, because, even with all of my qualifiers of saying, oh, I don't like to say this, I still said it, I'm just lampshading it. I'm just saying, oh, it was good for its time, and I don't really subscribe to that. But even I'm introspecting on that, you can't help but do that because time continues to march forward, and all you can do is try and, take in what's going on, take in what happened, and hope for the best moving forward,
Absolutely.
So what are some of the games that you guys like to play to get nostalgic? Is there something that you pick out specifically and I'm gonna do this just so I can feel nostalgia?
I gotta give a shout out to my Blue Bomber friend Mega Man. I played it on my birthday, so obviously it's tied to nostalgia with me. I did a 24-hour stream, nothing but Mega Man, got through 1 through 5 on there, and what do you guys think? The freaking Mega Man. I have so much to say about that. I just opened up a can of worms for myself.
And you're blue right now, in honor of Mega.
Yeah, I am blue. Look at me. I'm blue.
I've said it before. Controversial, infamous statements I've made. The only NES games I like are Super Mario Bros. 3 and Mega Man 2 specifically. That's the one I've beaten all the way through. But yeah, I think the controls in Mega Man have aged phenomenally for being an 8-bit title.
Absolutely. I still love the mechanics of it. I think that it is one of the most solid. And then the sound design on basically all Capcom games. I just recently looked this up yesterday. The sound engine design for all of the Mega Mans, for DuckTales, for Chip and Dale's, for all those Capcom games were all made by the same guy. And that's why they are all amazing.
Capcom music is so good. There was the era of that, and I think I mentioned this a little bit on the composer episode where we were talking about I was talking specifically about Yoko Shimomura and how Street Fighter 2, immediately, anytime I listen to that music, immediately it's 1995, my brother's listening to Ace of Base, my mom's ordering us a pizza, and we're out riding our bikes and coming in to sit down, and it's a beautiful Friday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that just gets me almost there are some things now that I never thought something like that, a memory like that, could touch my heart of oh my gosh, that was such a good time in my life.
So, fun fact, the guy who made the sound design for all those Mega Man games also made the sound design for the Street Fighter games. And his name is Yoshihiro Sakaguchi.
Oh, yeah.
There you go, the OGs. So, I think a lot of people's first 3D title that they experienced was Super Mario 64. And likewise, even though it was not by any stretch of the imagination a new game when I played it, it was for me as well, because I was pretty accustomed to handheld titles, arcade games, which were, pretty much just relegated to 2D. And then, lo and behold, we got an N64, the GameCube was out, but that didn't matter because it was a new console to me. And one of the first games we looked up was Mario 64, and running around that castle courtyard, jumping through Bob-omb Battlefield. I mean, that experience, I can play today, and sure, I can get through the levels a lot faster. I know them like the back of my hand, but yeah, that feeling still comes rushing back sometimes of, oh yeah, I remember when this was all brand new to me and there was no experience like it.
That's 2000, 2001 for you, around that time.
Yep. Around that time.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting.
So one thing about Mario is that I never really had the same nostalgia for him as everybody else, but touching back on the speedruns that I was talking about, I watch a lot of our speedrunner friends. Shout out to like Joey Pibbs, shout out to Potato __SB, shout out to Flodgen Lounge. They run Super Mario 64, and I have no nostalgia for it, but I love watching them. They just have such a good time playing through this game that I just can't help but feel like a kid, like watching their friend play through Mario, you know?
Yeah.
That is kind of the nature of those evergreen titles, is you're always going to have a group rally around them, no matter how old they get, and especially on a website like Twitch, where that's kind of the point, is to gather people based on these games. It's, yeah, you're always going to have that where even the people that, maybe didn't play it growing up will recognize, oh yeah, hey, this is the Mario 64 community, they get hyped about this game, and they're really good at it, especially the speedrunners.
Yeah.
I think that's something like, and it's been more this year. Everybody, I'm sorry, this has been the year of Final Fantasy. My third year, okay, I think I'm allowed to. Johnnick might not know this, but like for the first 2 years of my stream, I was like kind of everywhere. I did a lot of other stuff, and I sort of started out as like a PG-13 spooky games streamer.
Really?
Like I played a lot of like those kind of like creepy, like a lot of Cthulhu games and what is it? Innocence, a Plague Tale, Innocence, a Plague Tale, or whatever that is. Those types of games is kind of how I started. It's not until this year that I was finally like, okay, I'm doing Final Fantasy because I love it. And it's my third year, and I get to do what I want.
You can do what you want from the beginning.
I think the stream before the stream that I joined Ratnado's chat, he had played Until Dawn.
Which has become a running Halloween thing.
Two years strong. Will it happen again this year, folks? I guess that remains to be seen.
We'll find out.
But it is a fun game.
It's great. But I bring that up to just bring up too of like what you're talking about with circles. And now I've met a lot of people who are like huge Final Fantasy fans, like especially like from Samson ID. A lot of his people, like Zimris or whatever, or like even like meeting up with Ule and like Final Fantasy 14 and stuff like that. And kind of like that's kind of like when I first got into streaming, I was like, it would be cool one day if I was big enough to just like have Final Fantasy friends. And we've got our free company now, and so to me, like the nostalgia of that has driven me to where I am today. Of like, now we've got a free company, and I'm running dungeons with UltraJohnic and MP Ret, and it's wild, it's crazy. We did that last night, is why I bring that up.
Let me just say that the most wild thing about that is getting any two Final Fantasy fans to agree on something.
Well, we have the good twin and the evil twin here on today's episode.
The
twinning.
Yeah. Your opinions are mirrors of each other, so alike and yet so opposite.
Yes, there's no in between. It's either exactly the same or exactly the opposite. But yeah, is there anything else that you kind of wanted to talk to, you wanted the people to think about or do, Johnnick, that that comes from this topic? Because we could go on. I mean, that's the thing. I assume this will be an ongoing conversation. We can talk more or something about this, because I think most of the people we know are old enough to have nostalgia for some era of gaming in particular.
I think that one thing that I think is really important is for people to look back on the past of gaming and see where it's been. I think people should at least give it a chance to look at. You don't need to play it. I'm not saying necessarily go play it, although there are plenty of good options, like, for example, Nintendo Switch Online, those remasters and remakes like you were talking about. Those are really great ways to go and experience those things with less of the hiccups of the incredibly hard difficulty through the use of great tools like save states and etc. So I think that it's important to keep these games fresh in people's minds, because history just in general is good to revisit and refresh, you know?
I agree. I think remakes are all well and good. I think it's a good way to bring the stories and the experiences to new generations who may be less inclined to go back and explore those original titles. But I think porting them with some quality of life improvements is also a good strategy to bring in some of the people who, maybe want to revisit some of their childhood favorites without the childhood hiccups, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. A lot to think about, a lot to reflect on, and now I'm just thinking about a lot of those things and how many memories I have tied to video games and like hanging out with people and talking with people. The friends I have, a lot of it relates to that as well. Thank you so much, UltraJohnic, for being on Scrollies, your first episode. How was it?
It was great. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun talking to you guys. And maybe if we keep talking about the past and learning stuff about the past, we can get Squat out of the past. We can bring him back to the present day.
Oh, is that all it takes? Do we just have to keep talking about the past? Well, here, let me see. I see a saloon across the street. Let's see. There's a drunk cowboy staggering out of it. Okay. No, I can't talk about what he's doing here on this non-explicit podcast. It's a little, it's vulgar. Okay, yeah, we're just gonna move on.
Just keep digging down into the past, and then eventually we'll find you. But yeah, I've had so much fun. Thank you guys so much for inviting me on here. I love talking to you guys just in general. So it's great to talk to you in this kind of format. I've never done this kind of format before, and you guys made it great, made it awesome.
Well, it was a pleasure to have you, Ultra, and hopefully now you'll release the raccoons from our circuit so we can continue with our sign off. Yeah. They're scattering away. Okay. I think they're clear. I think we're good.
Ultra Guy, as I call him, as his comic is from his youth was. Is there? How do you want the people to find you? What should they do? What's going on in the world of UltraJohnic?
If you guys want to check in on me, I do stream on Twitch very occasionally. Not really a fixed schedule at the moment, but I'm working on that, hammering on that. At twitch.tv/UltraJohnic. Or you can find me in your chat room, spamming emotes.
Boom. Perfect.
Boom.
Great. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll maybe we'll call it here, Squat. What do you think? Or should we just keep going? I don't know. I'm gonna let Squat decide.
I think we have another 4.5 hours in us.
Yeah.
No, we got to create nostalgia for this experience, you guys, which means we're gonna have to end it now.
We didn't even touch on all of the gaming history that we could go into. I have several books that I can recommend to you.
Uh-oh, he's cracking open the encyclopedia. End it, Ratnado.
All right, I am Team Ratnado at twitch.tv/Team Ratnado. Currently on hiatus, but I'm hoping within the next couple weeks to be back. And we'll be jumping right into October Night Spoopies. I am here with my co-host.
It is Squat Cobbler here in the past very much yeehaw times, but I'm coming at you here on the Scrollies podcast and looking forward to spoopy times.
All right, we'll see you all next time. Bye.
See ya.
0110010 011111001 011000101. That means bye.
Give or take 30 minutes. It's fine if it goes a long.
Well, I'm here all day. You guys are stuck with me now.
All right, 5-hour episode. Let's go.
I'm in.
You will find that your keyboards and mice are locked now. The raccoons have invaded your circuitry.
Oh my gosh. Whoa, how'd they get in here?
That was the whole point, is just to get the raccoons to invade.
Yeah.
That's
just
okay.
playing the long con on infecting us with a virus.
You didn't say the magic word.